To quick 3D tutorials. Today's video we're going to talking about the IK spline. The IK spline is kind of using a spline to control the joint width. So to find it, you want to find it in the rigging, skeleton, and I just cut this one to this side, and here it is. Press on this to go to the option box, reset the tool. Okay. We're starting by number 1, which is the default one. I just click on the root of the joint and the tip, and that it is. What we get is actually we're getting, just put this one there, we're getting the IK handle, you cannot use this, and we're getting a curve, and that is we need to use. What it is a curve have vertex, as you can see, or CV. So with the CV you can control or following on the joint things. So that is the default version of it. The next one I will talk about is we go to the same thing, option box there. As you can see, the first curve we have only 2 vertex to control it. Sometimes we want to have a more in this. To having it, we can go again to the IK spline, reset the tool, and instead of the 1 we press 4, and that is the highest number of the CV or vertex CV on the curve you can get, and the same principle, root and the tip, and that it is. But if I go to vertex mode, select them, you can see we're getting more in to CV. Okay, just undo this a couple of times. So that is a two-way, but sometimes we want also have a customizations curve to driving it. But the last thing before we going to it, I will just say there are another option. If I go to it again, we have something called root on the curve. If you check this off and do this, you will get completely another version of it, and that is the root of your joint. If I move it, you can see my joint, it will not move, it is just there. So that is another function you have inside it. For now I have 2 examples, and these 2 examples will be, we want to create it one with a spline IK, and the second one without a spline, but we will get kind of the same result. But the thing is good with the no IK spline is I can here go ahead and rotate in the X when I make this controller, and I can also scale it. So this one is kind of things is missing, so that is you need to know. But for now we want to create not the Maya curve or automatically curve, we want to create a custom curve, and we want to this curve controlling the joint. So how we're going to do this, I will show you. Go to the curve, default setting, and holding the V and click to snapping it to the position of the joint. When you are done, press enter, and now we have getting our curve. There are something you need to know. You need actually root of the joint be moving a bit. Why? Because when we want to select this, it is easier for us, and the position, it will be bring the joint back to the position, so don't worry about it. So to do this, we're going to IK spline, reset the tool, and we want to check auto create curve off. Now I select the same thing, root of the joint, tip of the joint, and select the curve self. As you can see now, it is snapping. So what we get is this curve, curve 4. If I go into this, with the default things, I get it with the CV. Okay, so now we want these controller. I have already created them and also have freeze transformation. Now I want to attack this to this. To make it more simple, I'm going to delete the other things. I think that is this, this, and this. Or this one, and delete. Selecting the curve, deleting these, and yeah. So it's going to be a bit easier to see it. This one is the first and this one is the second controller I will show you, and that is the joint for one and joint for the second. Okay. What we need to do first, we need to create kind of cluster for controlling the CV of the curve. To do this, to make it easy, I'm going to hit in everything. Okay, and I will just show the curve I have created. Okay, and to find the cluster, you will find it in the format and cluster by default setting. To adding it to here, which I have done, you're going to holding Control Shift and press on the cluster, and here it is, another one. Right click, delete. So that is another way to just make things faster. So go to the edit mode. First one, the root one, have two vertex, so you need to select them two and press the cluster. And if you want to move the cluster pivot, that is the pivot we need to do, holding the D and snapping it a bit down. Okay, this is a way to do this. Remember to do this like this. Next is the next CD, create cluster, the next one, cluster, and so on. I do not remember if I have two or one, so I have actually, yeah. For the last one, I will, for both of them, create one cluster as the root of the joint, holding the D and snap it a bit up. So here we go. So what we get, we have now cluster controlling the joint and controlling the curve. Basically, the controlling the curve, curve controlling the joint. So as you can see. Okay. The thing is, it is kind of a bit hard to select the cluster, so I have creating here in this. I have already creating Shift H to show this again. I have creating this controller, so I want to attack it. So and Control H to hit in it the curve again. So to do this is very simple. We're going to parent these things, but sometimes can getting an arrow, not an arrow, but sometimes can be, if I select this and P for parent, sometimes Maya make a group, and this group we don't need it, so it is best way is just snapping it to the number 1 and number 2 to the 2, number 3 to 3, and so on. Now we have our cluster parented or as child for the controller. So that is the first way. The next one we want to do is another one. You know, here now I just show you the joint. You can see it is not take all the other. I want to all the other be affected. So instead, what we're going to do, this one be child to this, and this to this, and so on. So we just check this and the XP parent and see how it works. It's working great. And you can also do this 4 to the 3 and 3 to the 2 and 2 to the 1. So now we have the root, and we can also controlling like this. And if you want to have a nice fall off, you can select all of this controller, and now when I rotate, you can see we're getting very nice fall off. So just save it up, this one, break 4. Okay, so that is the first way to creating it. The second one I will show you is, I just hidden everything other I don't need. The second one is without the spline IK, which is we have a joint here and controller here, and we don't need to use this curve. That was for the second one for IK spline. So how we can do this now, this is very simple again. The thing is, we now need, I think we don't need to have this controller, so I just deleting it. So now we want, if I go ahead and parent the joint to this, it will not work. You can see we were missing the joint section. So instead we're going to using a constraint. So what we're going to do, select the parent, select this. If you want to use the parent, so you can just use it, so you have rotation, the scale and this. And if you want to have only scale or rotation or the point, so you can also do this. So that is a two-way you can do things with. But for this parent it will work. If you want, you can also add all this three stuff. So selecting this, the important thing you need to know, reset the tool, just make this offset. What is mean? It is not positioning it other direction, and add. And now you can see we can rotate, scale, and all the other things. Okay, the same thing for this one, this and P for not P for parent. You need to have the parent constraint, as you can see. Okay, same thing for this one. Select this, select the joint, parent, this and parent. So now, as the same of the other, we have the thing like this. Now we can go ahead and parent this to this, and this to this, this to this. So we're getting basically the same effects. And you can also scaling things like this. So you need actually to apply a scaling to see it how it is. If it's not work, so you can use the scale for the scaling point, all these kind of three things you need to do. But that is the two examples. As you can see, I just take everything and show this, showing it where it's be. I think we need to have the scale constraint. Yeah, it is important to have the scale constraint, because if you have character, you want to scale it bigger and smaller, so you need to having it. So to do this, select this and the joint and scale. And the same thing, make sure you have the offset set. Scale and scale. So as you can see now, he's scaling also the joint, and if I select them, two of them, so you can see it rotating by follow. If I don't want to have the follow, I can also rotate it like this, so we have a lot of control. So that is the two things. The thing is, with good of this, you can also rotate in this axis, but with the second one, you don't have this function on it. Okay. So that is just quick things how you can start with the IK spline. If you want to use the custom of controller, you can also use it by the constraints. So that is a two way to do things with. And thanks for watching.